Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to episode 2 of Talkin Dirty. Hopefully, everything's coming through all right. To my left is a couple of guys that need no introduction when it comes to this place. In the center here is Jerry Higbie of Higbie.
Thanks for having me, you guys.
Yeah, thanks.
It's awesome.
And to my far left is my co-host.
Why do you sound like a UNC fighter announcer?
Well, because when you teach online, you kind of need to like overhype it, and that way everybody else is just as excited as you are, or at least half as excited. Because if they're as half as excited as I am, we're having a good time.
All right.
That's it.
That's good.
So,
that's what we're going to try to do. So we had some little technical difficulties getting ready for tonight, but we've got everything handled pretty well, we think. And hopefully everybody can hear us fine, like as opposed to last week. And we'll rock on.
Yeah, here we are. But yeah, before we kind of get into it, I know that there's a few things that you wanted to touch on from last week to just kind of like tie up loose ends, make sure everything's good, and that kind of thing. Is that
right? Before we start getting Jerry's take on his life and his take on racing and so on, we could talk a little bit about some. You had some questions for me that were left over from last week. We get the questions that come across and. Quickly enough. So there's a couple that are left over from last week.
Yes. So biggest thing, the first one on my list here is the slingshot track, right? The question was, can you tell us a little bit more about the slingshot track? When are you planning on opening? What day of the week are you planning on running?
So everything is very preliminary, but we're going to start to cut the track out as soon as the weather breaks. Hopefully, the end of next month or maybe the beginning of March. Obviously, we aren't going to open it until it's ready, so that's a little bit up in the air yet. As of right now, we hope to use Sundays as our race day, and they'll kind of coincide with some of the motocross events. So we'll have a lot of activities on the fairgrounds on Sundays at that point.
And just like anything that's worth doing, you got to do it right? So there's no sense in rushing anything that isn't worth doing.
Yeah, I mean we know the size of the track, we know what the track. What we want it to look like size-wise, so we want to get some good. We are going to lose a little bit of the backstretch parking in the pit area. We know that, but just to get everything situated, make sure we get the surface laid down good. It's good and smooth, and get some cars out there, do some testing, make sure everything's good to go.
Yeah. The next one on my list here is going sequentially. Will there be a minimum amount of starts to be able to compete for the Big Block Championship?
So we have quite an array of different questions.
Yes,
here, right?
yeah.
So we're changing gears.
Changing gears here. I apologize.
Actually, we're Doug and I are just finishing the final format on exactly how we want to do this breakdown. But the bottom line is there will be no minimum amount of races that you have to make. Obviously, the more you make, the higher you are on points, the better chance you have that you're going to move to the next breaking point. So the one point in the season is July 10th, where we'll narrow it down to the top 8 guys.
The top 8, yep.
And then again, the second to last weekend, which I think is August 29th. Or no, I'm sorry, that's not right. But it's the second to last weekend, championship night. We will break it down to the top 4.
Yes.
So
yeah.
You could actually, if you were lucky enough, you could actually come to one race, qualify to get in the top 8, and then come to another race after July 10th and actually get in the top 4.
Yeah.
I mean, chances of that happening are pretty slim to none.
Pretty slim.
And if you do it, more power to you. But
yes.
That's exactly how it's going to work.
Yes. Yeah. Just a quick, because I got a little bit too excited. I apologize. All right. I forgot to mention our great friends over at the Orange County Chamber of Commerce. They are this week's sponsor, and we are so excited to have them aboard the racetrack and have be a part of their organization. They do great things here for the town, and for the county, and we are we couldn't be more excited to be a part of this. So we wanted to thank them. And you have anything else that you want to touch on before we kind of start interrogating Jerry here?
We're happy to have the Chamber of Commerce on board here. I mean, obviously, our community relations are utmost importance to what we do here at the track, and making sure that we have those kind of relationships in the community are really important to what we're going to do here moving on forward.
Absolutely. So, shifting gears, Jerry. Again, thank you for taking time and coming aboard. So I guess what we really want to just do is kind of get to know you a little bit better. Not only it's real easy to get to know you as a race car driver.
Sure.
Watching everything happen. But tell us a little bit about you and your kind of life experiences with racing and that kind of thing. Just kind of.
Well, I grew up in a racing family. I mean, my dad raced back in the 60s, late 60s. And he drove himself a little tiny bit right in the beginning, the first car he had. And my uncle came on board. They decided they'd be better as car owners than racers themselves. And they had a lot of name guys in their cars. Early on, they didn't. They started out, they had like Eddie Davis in the car. They had a lot of local guys, Stan Sherman, going through the whole list of drivers that they've had. I mean, they've had Carl Pittenger in their car, a race or two, Hank Lawrenson in their car, a race or two, Jimmy Walker raced for him for a year or two, and he actually still works on my cars every night. He's 81 years old, and he still works on my cars.
That's awesome.
He was there when I was 6 years old when I got my first go-kart. They went into later on, Bobby Botcher.
Yep.
Cozy ran for my dad, Mike Rickey, Rich Rickey, Senior, Junior. They had a lot of drivers, and they did accumulate a lot of wins here. Nazareth, and didn't really race a lot of other places. They ran Flemington maybe a couple of times, not that often, but for the most part, that's where I grew up. I grew up in a little shop learning to do a lot of stuff that they did. They didn't really ever back in those times buy anything, so I kind of learned the craft and learned the trade a little bit through them and their hard work and their dedication. They just taught me, listen, it's there if you want to do it. As hard as you want to work. Racing's a lot of work, but it's a nice thing to do, and you do it as a family and everybody's together. And we've always done it. And then naturally as I grew older, I started racing in '91, and started out with a teammate. I had Stevie Botcher racing, in the main car. I went to Brett's school in his first year. And that he had to school, and I actually won a feature that year. Probably,
I got a couple of questions. Before you get too far into the history of all that stuff, right? Because your family and my family have kind of got a similar pattern, right? Your dad bought a car in the '60s, tried to drive. My dad bought a car in '68, tried to drive, realized that maybe they'd be better off hiring somebody else, right? So I feel like you've been around the track as long as I have, but you're actually quite a bit younger than I am, right?
I'm a little younger. Yep.
You want to say? Or
I'm 48.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So
So I look older than you, but I'm only 48.
Well, that's
Maybe it's the hair, or lack of it.
But, so you started going in the pit area and you're hanging around the shop like when you were really young, right? So when was it? In '91 when you first drove for the first time, and you were actually really, I remember you being in my class, in my driving school class, and I never realized that was really the very, very beginning of your.
That was the very. I wasn't a kid growing up that raced go-karts and raced all that kind of stuff. I had some fun karts in the backyard and that kind of thing, but never really raced anything.
So how old when you got in the car for the first time? How old were you?
Well, I was 18.
Okay.
When I first got in the car, and I remember when I went to your school, and the first thing you said to me after I went out there, I went about 30 miles an hour. God, your car's loud. Because I was at the time, they had these box mufflers, and you had to run them. And I remember we had straight pipes right through them. And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. I don't even know what it's supposed to sound like, but I know it was loud.
Your first car had mufflers cheated. All right, that's good.
So then it just gradually got a little bit faster and faster. And in '91, I was lucky enough to start on the pole. Like the first time that I was able to qualify through the heat and get handicapped, and it was a runaway win with no yellow. So I said, boy, I'm going to be good.
You had no experience in go-karts or
no, I ran a go-kart. One of my buddies, he had gotten hurt on it, and I ran like 4 or 5 races when I was like 15, and it was fun, but that's really all the racing I ever did.
Really?
Yeah, just being around it. But it's funny because now, fast forwarding a little bit more, but then we can go back, like my son is brought up the same way. When he was a kid, we got him a slingshot to get him racing with Cody with a slingshot, and he never wanted to do it. Had no intention of doing it, but yet in the background has the work ethic I have, the mentality I have for getting the preparation and all that kind of thing right. So I think when he jumped in the car, he was pretty good at it because he was so aimed at what he wanted to do.
So what So at what point? And by the way, Cody couldn't be with us.
Yeah,
so
Cody
Jerry's filling in for him and answering the questions.
Disappointing. I told him, I said, this is going to be tough.
So getting back to where the point where you did your dad say to you, hey, do you want to drive my car?
It was actually my Uncle Gary. He says, we've got 2 cars. He says, I know you're interested in maybe starting racing. I want to get you going. It was more my Uncle Gary than it was my dad. And I said, well, you know what? I'd love to. Let's do that. It'd be fun. So at that time, it was actually 1990 that you could race 2 cars in heat races. The second car you qualified, you had to race.
Right.
So Stevie Botcher had both cars. They were his cars to race. But whichever car he didn't qualify with, I took that out in the back of the Conti. So I had actually gone to your school in 1990 and went about 30 miles an hour. And then I ran all year, I'm going to say maybe 7 or 8 times in the back at the Concis just to get a little bit of track time. Then in 91, I took your school again, and this time I was kind of up to speed.
Right.
And that was really when I started racing.
Right.
So
Gotcha.
91 is when I really got rolling, and I did really well that year.
So here's my question. So I'm going to ask you the same thing about Cody, right? So here you have this opportunity.
Yep.
Was it your uncle did your uncle want you to drive more than you did, or were you about even, or did you want to do it more than he did?
I kind of always wanted to do it, but never really had the chance, and he just opened the door and said, let's do it. You know what I mean? And through all my lumps and all that stuff. See, my dad worked a job, Reynolds Aluminum, and he worked a lot of nights and stuff like that. So I spent a lot of time with my Uncle Gary growing up. He'd pick me up, take me to the shop. He taught me a lot about, like, he always did the body work. He always did a lot of the chassis work. My dad always handled the engines, the transmission stuff. I think that's why they got along so good for so long. Right. They both kind of had
And that goes
their
back
own
to
jobs
when all the
forever.
other star drivers they had driving.
Yeah.
Right?
So it was really my Uncle Gary that really got me started in it and said, hey, let's get a car. Let's get you in a car and let's get going. And then there on, we always had like another driver, and my Uncle Gary was kind of growing kind of out of the sport, at least for that time being, to where I raced with my Uncle Gary and my dad till 94 or 95 when my Uncle Gary decided he wanted to retire for a while, and just kind of turned it over to my dad and I, and since then my dad and I just have kept it going.
Right. Right. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's I've had a good career, and it's been so cool growing up around the races. All my favorite drivers, all that kind of thing, and you grow up and then you become somebody else's favorite driver. It's been rewarding. Racing's a very rewarding thing, and then to see my son start racing a few years ago, and see it through his eyes, the guys he's racing against, the guys he sees. You walk by, see you cut, this and that. It's so cool to see it just keep getting kind of passed on.
Well, yeah, I've always said racing is like hunting, right? It gets handed down through generations.
Yeah.
That's how most people get involved, because they had a family
Exactly
member
right.
before them.
100%.
It gets passed down through generations. So when you first started out, would you say, because a lot of people say, do you still get nervous when you race? I mean, were you nervous in the beginning? Or were you like,
yeah, I had no idea what to expect. When
I got more nervous when I realized I could actually do it. Before I realized I could do it, there wasn't that much pressure.
Yeah.
But then as I started to do better,
I can attest to that.
I was like, ooh, there's a lot of pressure here.
You want to succceed, so you put that pressure inside of you. No matter what sport you play, once you get the hang of it, you want to be the best you can. Now you've got pressure on yourself, and other people have pressure on you. I don't know, but I always feel like I've always had.
I mean, I've had guys tell me that they actually got so nervous on race morning, on Saturday morning, that they would throw up. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like
I've never been to that.
I've never been that.
Yeah, no, I've never been that
seriously, they've said I can't do this anymore because I get so nervous I throw up in the morning.
Yeah, I think it's
what I used to do in the morning of a race when I was in my teens and just starting out is, to fight off the nerves, I would take my dirt bike out and I'd run my dirt bike the whole morning until it was time to go to the track. Did you ever do anything like that?
No, not really. No. It seems like Saturdays we're always
just
busy.
Getting ready to go.
Just always seem like right to the moment you leave, and then when you leave, you feel like when you get to the track, there's more you can do. No matter what, it always seems like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So having done this for 30 years, I mean, do you get nervous anymore, or is it more?
I do get nervous, and you know what? For a lot of reasons, now I build the cars that a lot of people race. I feel like I'm responsible, like pioneering it, like I should run.
You have
and be like an example, even though I probably don't. When I go to the track, and we take care of 4 or 5 cars at our shop, and at the track, I'm always being pulled this way or that way with questions, with stuff like that. So my racing has become something different. And since my son started racing, I really just feel like when I get in the race car, I'm just keeping the seat warm for him. When he wants to jump in a big block or the small block, I feel like, I'm just keeping this thing warm for you. So I start looking at racing a little bit different now because I do see it through his eyes, and we have such a good race team rolling right now with all the sponsorship that we have, that he has, that we have with the big block, and we have so many things available to us right now. It's a great time for us, and it's a good time for him to get racing and get racing more and more.
So you're saying that you don't have the focus necessarily that you had at one time. It's not,
I
it's not
don't.
all about.
I don't have the focus right now that I had probably 5 years ago. I don't think. I think it's almost impossible for me to get that.
Does that bother you? Is that just seem like it's an evolution that was inevitable?
It does bother me, but when I look at it through my son's eyes, it's the best thing in the world.
Yeah, I was going to say, but it's not necessarily focused at his loss.
Yeah.
It's just redirected on different things.
It's
just
redirected
spread
on
out.
different
Yeah.
things.
It's spread
Yeah.
out, yeah.
So it is different, but I think this year I'm going to be a little bit more focused now that I'm a little bit more settled with Cody. I want to get another couple more years of good years into racing. And, when he's ready to take over the bigger cars and that, I'm going to be just super excited because when we go racing, and it's just him racing either the 358 at Thunder Mountain, we ran a couple of times. We went down to New Egypt a couple of times with the Sportsman, and I was there to help him. That's the best time of my life. And when we started at Accord the year before, when he first started, that was just great because I wasn't racing then.
So that answers that.
So that's
I was
been fun.
You just
answer the
you just
question
answered
before we even
Yeah.
get
Yeah,
there.
we had a question from Dale Larson about
Yeah.
is Cody planning to move up to run some small block or big block stuff?
At some point when he feels like he's ready, I
That's the
think
long
we'll be
range
ready. That's the thing. Whatever he wants to do. He never wanted to race up until 2 years ago, and he said, "Dad, you think we could do a Sportsman?" So now there's no coming back. I mean, he just wants to know everything he can about these cars, the insides, the outsides, you name it.
That's awesome.
When he decides to do that, will you be his crew chief, or will you,
Yeah, I'll
you
be with him.
race
I'd be
alongside
with him every step of the way. I don't think I want to. I don't think I want to race against him. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I just. I don't.
So
I
that
don't
answers
see
the
it.
other question.
I
I was
think
going
it
to
would
say,
be.
really?
I think it would be fun to go out and kick it around with him. You know what I mean? Because I at this point, I would have a lot to show him. When you move up into the big block, it's a different world than running a Sportsman and things like that. So there's a lot I think that I could help him. That took me a lot of years to establish, obviously. So, but I'll be ready to be by his side every step of the way, absolutely. And my dad, same thing. He'll be ready for whatever we do. He loves it all too. So it's a nice thing we have going right now. Knock on wood. We work hard at it, and we're fortunate. It's been fun.
You prefer to do your own deal. I mean, you've obviously driven successfully for Petruskas.
I
and
drove
other
for a
people.
lot of really good people and won a lot of races and a lot of things. And there's no place like home. It seems like and everything I did, I had a great time doing it and in such good equipment. I ran for the Petruskas. I never had 2 years like I had with them.
Mm-hmm.
I won every race that I can win. I mean, we won Eastern States, the big block race.
Yep.
We won the King of the Catskills at Accord. At that time, it was an ROC race. We won the championships at both tracks. And it was a blast. And that was probably the closest thing I could have to really having a family operation with all the Petruska boys and all that. I mean, that was awesome because we kind of melded together. I'd go down a couple times a week. And before that, I had run for Dale Shaver, and same thing. He was just getting started racing. So he relied a lot on us with the 47 cars. So same thing. We had that family run type of atmosphere, which worked out really well.
Right.
But then from there, for me to run probably a lot of other things back in the day, it was probably a little bit more difficult for me.
Do you ever wish that you did more traveling and that you went a little bit more full time? Was that ever a goal, or were you?
It was never a goal for me. My goal was always just whatever was kind of right in front of me, and just to get to Middletown Saturday nights was really awesome for me. Mm-hmm. And then when I had opportunities arise that I could run other people's cars maybe on Saturdays and then have my own car maybe for Accord and then run some of the other races was really nice.
It freed you up a little
It
bit.
freed me up a little bit. But, I've always had, my career in my mind, and it's never really been as a race car driver. I don't feel like I was ever given the talent that a lot of guys had. I feel like I have to work at it a lot more than a lot of the other guys. I have to get my car right. And I stress this to Cody every week. I stress it to him since he started. I say, you know what, Cody? Days it's such a chess match. He's learned a lot about his shock absorbers, learned a lot about that. He takes them apart. I say, Cody, if everybody out there sliding and you're smart enough to make your car not slide, you don't have to be the best race car driver out there. You're going to drive under them guys because they're getting out of your way.
Right.
If nobody can turn, you're the only one that can turn. You're going to win that race. So just like you, I've seen what you've done. I've been in your shop. If you're the smartest guy and you know the combinations you need to have, and you can execute it on the track, you're going to be great at it. Right. I think Cody has so much more of a step up than what I had when I started out. I can hand him a lot more of that kind of ability and technology than what we kind of had to offer when I was a kid.
Right.
So
and then getting 2, 3, 4 years into his career, you start to understand what you'd like to feel.
right, exactly.
And then hopefully you know how to get to it.
There is that feel.
Which is
exactly.
Which is like one of the most important things that you could I could throw your setup in my car or your setup in my car, and I might
you'll-
hate it
You'll never
because
find
it's not
it.
what I like.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely right.
it's a lifetime to master.
But
for
if
sure.
you don't have a lot of experience, you don't know what a good feel is.
Yes. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so there's no sense of trying to get there because you don't know what it feels like.
Yeah.
Yep. And all that takes time.
And
That's
Cody
what
Cody really only has the races that you guys have seen him in. I mean, he has 7 or 8 races here at Orange County, whatever we raced, and then we ran the year before. He started out in rookies at Accord, and I mean, he got lapped in the heat race. He got lapped twice in the main for the first half of the year, and then finally he started getting up to speed, and then all of a sudden, in the matter of 2 or 3 weeks, he won 3 rookie races in a row.
I was gonna say he ripped them off.
He moved up, and then he got in a grit race and won that. It was like that was his first actual when he moved up. He won the grit race at Accord. He got second, and the winner got
And
disqualified.
he won one of the races he won this year was phenomenal.
And then, he
Yeah.
came to Middletown, and I said,
that
you
was
know what?
great.
My speech to him was, you know what? Take your time. I've been racing here my whole life. This is a difficult place to master. And his first set out there in hot laps, he's 3 lanes up off the bottom, 4 lanes up off the bottom, with more car control than most of the field that was out there. And I said to myself, oh my God, I can't believe he's beyond his years, And then all of a sudden there he was, he had his lumps and bumps, and then all of a sudden he had himself in a position where he's 3rd or 4th, he could see the leader, and I just could see him getting hungry, and I could feel it. I was blown away, and then all of a sudden he's running the outside of Mel Schufer, he's got Grant Hilfiger under him, and it went on lap after lap after lap, and I'm saying to myself, this kid might win this race. And I was like, this is, and then all of a sudden he rolled by him, and I think I jumped so high, I mean, I was probably about 5 feet off the ground. When the checkered flag picture, I think I'm in the background.
So what was a better feeling? That race where he won, at the end of the race made the right move and won the race, or the time that you won Eastern States?
I'm telling you, it's close.
was close, right?
It's close.
Is it?
It's close. It's close. I mean, that moment rivals my win at Eastern States. Absolutely. Anything you do with your kids, it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So which one's more special? The one not to play the hometown, the homer card. Which one's more special?
I mean,
the grit win or the win here at Orange County?
the win here at Orange County. You can win. I've always felt that you can win 8 or 10 races on the road. Of course, I'm not talking about Super Dirt Series races. Some of these other races, the weekly races at any other track, you win one in Orange County, it's worth a lot more weight if it was on a weighted thing. So for him to win in Orange County, to me, that was about as big as you can be. I mean, at any level, winning in Orange County is very difficult, and it's not getting any easier.
Do you think that the new surface here will help him be able to move around later on and make it a quicker transition?
I
Because
think-
as you and I both know, as the old Middletown didn't really translate to
Yes.
many other tracks. I know
Yes.
the times when I moved out of Middletown for the first time and tried to run,
Sure.
whether
Sure.
it be Reading or Rolling Wheels or any of those tracks, I was.
Right.
I thought every track I could drive like Middletown, and there wasn't another track that I could drive like Middletown.
The old Middletown. You go to Wheatsport, it's kryptonite.
Right.
Like to Superman or Canandaigua or some of these tracks, and now we have that here. So, conversly,
So all right. So that being said, let's talk about the track a little bit because
Yeah.
that's what we want to do, right? Look, the new
We love talking about Cody and all, but
Well,
let's get down to business.
This is a good transition into talking about,
Yeah.
like we talked earlier before we went on the air. There's no tire wear anymore, and
Right.
you said without the tire wear, I mean it's like putting money in everybody's pocket.
Oh, absolutely.
every week,
100%.
right? Do you? Because we have some guys that really don't like the new surface. They really don't like
Yeah.
slipping and sliding around.
Yeah.
They don't like the lack of grip. But you, even though you've had your struggles, right?
Oh, I'm struggling
Right?
like crazy.
But
And I
you
tell
like
people
it,
right
you
to their
still
face.
like it.
I like it because number one, I like the challenge. I know it's me being so old Orange County-ized. I see it with Tommy Meyer. I saw it with you when you're racing on it. Same thing. We know every light pole. We know every telephone pole. We know everything. We know all the breaking points we've always done. If you do any of that stuff now, forget it. You're 3 lanes up when everybody's going on by. So for me, I just think being older and being here so long, Richie Urich, same thing. I mean, Richie Urich this year at one of the practice sessions, I don't know if you noticed, but all of a sudden one set his car was a second faster.
I know.
He put Anthony Prego in it.
Yeah.
Because he said, you know what? I know it's me. Right. I'm older. I'm used to racing this place a certain way. I just want to know that my car's right.
It is so incredibly
It
hard.
was
to
And that's what he
His
did.
car that night.
Yes.
Yeah.
So as an older driver, you get in this thing, you've got to have a different technique, which I'm going to adapt to it. I'm confident this year I'll win a couple of races. I know I will. This year was my worst year I've ever had. It was so abbreviated that I can't even gauge it.
There was no rhythm.
There was no rhythm. I burned down one time on the backstretch on fire, everything else. I had MSD go bad. I mean, I only finished 2 races of the 7 or 8. I got a 6th and an 8th. Could have been worse, but I got wrecked a couple of weeks. It was just a horrible season for me either way. So this year was a throwaway anyway, with the COVID, with the no fans, with the way we had to park. I mean, it's a tough year no matter what.
Yep.
So I feel like, the year before I went pretty good at Middletown. I fast timed a few times, had some top 5s, and I felt pretty good on it. So I have no reason to think going into this year that I'm not going to be better. But I do think the new surface does lend itself to the newer drivers that don't have that old-time feeling of Orange County.
Right.
And I do like the new surface better because of the lack of tire wear.
Right.
Because it's easier on your car. It's easier on the engines.
It's easier on everything.
You don't need to go out and put $20,000, $30,000 worth of cylinder heads and intake and all the fancy stuff into it. What you have, if you can hook up the most percentage of it, you're going to go to the front and you're going to be good at it.
Right.
So when this thing all plays out and everybody kind of gets, I think, used to it, it's going to be good for everybody, no matter what.
Well, like I've said to a lot of people, I said, if we could just get a handle on this dust, and I really feel like we can, and I explained to you how we plan to do that. If we get a handle on that, the racing was phenomenal last year. We just couldn't see it as well as we wanted to.
Exactly.
Right?
I think, absolutely.
And so if we get a handle
100%.
on that, the racing is phenomenal.
I agree. You keep the dust under control. I mean, tracks get dusty. Middletown is just bigger than most of the tracks that are dusty. So it just presents that little bit more of a danger. We went to Thunder Mountain and we raced for 3 or 4 weeks when we were closed here. And Thunder Mountain's dustier than Orange County. But it's a little bigger than a quarter-mile racetrack. And a lot of the dust kind of dissipates and gets away. Orange County's bigger, the dust kind of lingers.
Right.
So no matter what you do, you come back around, you're in your own dust the whole way.
Right.
It never
And
gets
I
that
have
chance.
another observation on that,
So-
is that the modifieds are making so much grip now.
Oh,
They
absolutely.
have so much power.
Absolutely.
That you'll watch a sportsman race and track's not too bad. The modifieds get out there and it's like, oh
Just
man.
terrorize it.
This is
Absolutely. You see it happen right in front of you, right in hot laps. You just watch it happen. So
Right.
I'm confident that, you guys are going to get it under control. I mean, you guys do nothing but work. In your career, you've done nothing but work. That's what you do, and you want this place to succeed. You want it to be right. We all do. So, you got a lot of support, and you will.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna. I think we have a game plan. I have a game plan, and like you said, I'm not going to be satisfied until it's right.
That's the biggest thing. As long as you know that, I think you convey to the fans, you know what? We're going to put the best show on we can, and that's it. That's all we can do, because I know the racers feel the same way. We all want to be here. We all want to go racing. We all want it to be successful. Chris Larson put so much money, so much time, so much effort into just stepping up every bit of this place.
So if you feel the same way I do, I mean, having grown up here,
Yeah.
it's awesome when you can see that happening.
It's special to everybody I see in this room. I mean, Doug grew up there. Crackers grew up. We all grew up there. Our kids are growing up there. Our parents grew up there.
Right.
It's special to all of us. It's important to all of us. And we just always got to keep that in mind. It's nice to have backers like we have here and the momentum that we've always had at Orange County to have that premier facility. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think we're very lucky. I think we have to appreciate that. And like I said last week, all the teams, how much cooperation they gave us to park outside, to pre-register, to go through all the loops we had to jump through to get everybody inside. What do you think about parking outside?
For me, if everybody's parked on the outside, I'm okay with it. I was in a meeting with you in here when they were looking to move just the big trailers out, the one night, and you had raised your hand and you said, you know what, I didn't come here for everybody to be parked inside, me be parked outside. So I'm all for parking on the outside. I have no problem with it. I think it's good. It's good for the spectators. It's good for everybody if we have, good area to do it. But like Eastern States was difficult. I mean, we have a big trailer. We had to park on the outside. And Saturday came along. We're kind of halfway moving our stuff into the infield and all that stuff. And then we had problems in the race and got wrecked.
We knew that was going to be difficult.
That's a tough thing, because I don't have crash carts. I don't have all that stuff. And no matter where I'm parked on the outside, my average age of my crew is probably 70-ish. I mean, Jimmy Walker's 81, my dad's 73, Mr. K's 76. It's hard for me.
Average.
It's hard for me to get. My tire guy's 430 pounds.
It's a lot of wisdom right there, buddy.
So if we're a half mile from that gate down there, it's hard for me to get a tire cart down there. So it kind of takes me out of the game somewhat of that. And I can't ask these guys to do that. You know what I mean? So I think if we come up with something good, I do love the idea of parking on the outside.
We knew that was going to be difficult, moving everybody down there for the 200, but you know what? Nobody complained about it.
It's
because
very
we all
difficult.
knew what we were up against.
Right.
So we had to keep the visibility as good as we could.
And I'm not complaining about that now, but it made it difficult on us for that. You know what I mean? So,
I honestly, just not to steer this thing in the wrong direction, but I don't think that we're going to be parked on the outside once we are able to have fans in the stands again. We only did that. We started to do that basically because we
Try to get the cameras better.
the drive-in
The video was important. Drive-in,
the
sure.
bottom rows of the drive-in, there's no visibility
Yep.
if we have trailers in the pits.
Yeah.
So once we have the fans back in the stands, we're probably going to move everybody in there, and we'll go back to the original game plan where we put the tall trailers in the center.
I think
and
that's
try
a
to-
gr-
try
I think
to
that's a great idea.
Maximize.
I do. I think
the
that's a
viewing
great
as
idea.
best we can.
Yeah. I mean, I know me for one. I park anywhere as long as I'm parked with everybody would feel the same
Yeah,
way.
but I know what you're saying.
You know?
I wouldn't want to be outside if everybody else was in.
It's a very difficult thing. Yes, and that's been something that's been on my mind. That's been difficult.
Yeah.
And that answers another question that we also had about the parking spots, which were set up last winter.
Yep.
Anybody that purchased a spot last year, it's going to roll into 2021, like we told everybody last year, when the time comes.
Yep. So, nobody's going to get duped. And, obviously you haven't been forgotten either.
2020 COVID, I think, duped everybody in one way or another.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
Anything that you're doing from here, and you can undupe anything. It's great.
But at the same time, us as racers, we all knew what the consequence was. Don't do it or we don't race. You know
Everybody
what I mean?
wants to go race.
Everybody wants
You
to
do what
race.
you got to do to go race.
That was the bottom-
Absolutely.
that was the bottom
100%.
line.
So we all
Yep.
kind of banded together. So that was nice. So, from my perspective, right? So I don't want to say that I'm young because I definitely don't feel like I'm young, but I'm a little bit younger than you guys.
Oh, you're young.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Two
All right.
generations.
Well, all right.
Yeah,
You
you're
said that,
young.
not me. All right?
You're young.
You said that, not
You're
me.
young by a lot.
But I remember sitting in the stands with Mary Meyer and sitting in front of obviously I know it wasn't your dad.
My uncle Nick and my aunt
I was
Betsy.
gonna say it was your uncle's, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I always remember whenever they would announce Jerry Higbie and family would go crazy, and I'd turn to Mary Meyer and say, "Who's that? Who is that?"
That is my mom's brother.
Yeah. So I've
Yep.
watched you all my life, right?
Yep.
And now that I'm going back and I'm starting to get a little bit nostalgic, there's a lot of things on YouTube where it's either the old New York State Fairground race, Super Dirt Week, that kind of thing. There's a lot of races that I didn't know, and there's a lot of cars that you were in that I didn't know that you were a part of, right? So can you so I guess what I'm really trying to set up is, do you have a favorite, or do you have one that sticks out in your mind that goes to the forefront when you think about the early days of you running?
Like cars that I drove?
Yeah.
I mean, I drove
Cars
for some
and situations.
I drove some really good car owners. I actually drove the Budweiser number 3 at Syracuse.
You did?
I did. When I qualified the Blaney car with Brian Goey. I blew it up for you. Yep. You remember that or not? 1998. Yep.
Well,
Yep.
thank you.
Because I signed the check and
I
everything,
do-
the $1,500 green money.
I do remember.
Because I remember your mom was scoring, and my cousin was scoring, and we had to put a whole bunch of blue on the front of the car. Yeah, I qualified Blaney's car because I was just going to go up to Syracuse in '98, and I was just going to run some tires in for them because Blaney wasn't going to be their first day of time trials. So then they said, okay, well, it looks like the second day of time trials is going to get rained out, so you're going to have to qualify the car. Well, I got in that big Pontiac, and the thing was just fast, so I was fourth fastest. So I'm in the show with no car to drive. So I remember Brian Goey went to everybody that had a backup car and tried to buy it. So lo and behold, whatever may have happened with you and him must have been okay. And hey, why don't you drive Brett's car? Okay.
I guess we did.
So I still can remember your small block crew chief was Apples, okay? And he was my crew chief on race day. And I can remember saying,
It's coming back to me.
Apples, this thing's vibrating like crazy. He goes, BH said it was vibrating for him too. Don't. I said, okay. And I ran it. I said, I think it's getting worse. He said, BH will keep racing it. I said, okay. Do you remember what the problem was?
No.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
You run your power steering pump off the back of the
Oh,
camshaft.
okay. Yep. In
And
those days, we did. Yep.
The drive was too long. It was pushing on the camshaft.
Yep. They pushed the camshaft out the front of the motor.
Yep.
Yep. We did a couple of
Yep.
those. Yep.
So that ended my day in the Budweiser 3. But
I do remember that.
yep. So
So that's why when I write my book,
you were one of my car owners, and it was nice.
it was.
Didn't last long.
When I so when I read the book, my intention is to have a whole circle of people here.
Yep.
I'm going to invite you so you can remind me about this stuff.
I'm gonna have to. So that's kind of a side note to what I drove for. But I drove for the Smith Brothers 74.
Yep,
I ran
yep.
for them a season or two, and we had a great time. We ran all like the 200s, and we had a good time.
Yeah.
I mean, we were kind of almost like a comedy of errors at times. At Rolling Wheels, I remember the fuel got shut off on time trials. I remember it broke this, it broke that, and the one at car owner Steve Hastings was like the third or fourth time I pitted, and I don't remember what was broke at that point, but I think I ended up breaking the axle tube off, and I remember him leaning in mids. He goes, "We got to get this thing fixed. I got to see what you can break next." You know? So I drove for them. We had a good time. I mean, the Shaver car, the 47 car, was actually the first year I'd won the points at Orange County. I tied actually with Chuck McKee. Drove for them for a few years, small block, then moved up to big block. Had a great time driving for them, and then the Petruscas were really probably the highlight of my driving, because they just put such amazing equipment under me, and we had such a good chemistry for Orange County and for Accord. We won all kinds of stuff, and then I remember when they fired me, we were too much like family for me to fire me. So I remember Big Mike. I think the board different next year, so maybe you should find something else. And I said, oh, okay, yeah, it's no problem. I got my own equipment yet. And then I remember Jared calling me, and he says, hey, listen, wants to do something different. Maybe you should find something different. So, and that's how it ended. But we had a great time, and I'm still really good friends with Mike and the Petruska gang. And so many people. I drove for Bobby Houck when I was first starting out. My uncle Nick owned a car when I was first starting out. So many people's cars that I ran Ray Tewitt's car part of a year, 1 year, and had a good time. So many cars I've driven and just have had a really good career and met so many people doing it. It's been awesome, and we're all still really everybody I've driven for, all that we're all still friends. Vinny Salerno, I ran the 4-car small block 2003, I think it was. Same thing, just been good.
So you like where you're at right now?
I like where I'm at now. I like my own equipment. I like getting my son started with our own stuff, and I like the possibility of a year or two from now him maybe being able to getting into some other people's cars. You know, you never know. There's not as many car owners as there used to be.
Right.
But they're still out there.
Well, here's what I think about the car owners of today versus yesterday is that there's car owners out there, but there's no teams out there. There's car owners that are out there don't have teams. They don't have infrastructure. So they depend on a driver coming in and working on his own stuff and putting the deals together, and maybe even driving the truck to the track.
Sure.
And if you're willing to do that, there's opportunities.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So you just have to get to that point where people are looking at you and say, hey, you know what? I want to give that guy a shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the complete package.
There's not that many of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's definitely times are changing.
They are.
Times are changing.
Times are changing.
Yep.
So, question that we were kind of like, if it works, cool. If not, but there's not many times where I have this sitting in front of me and a camera in front of them. So so when you're,
You got a problem?
are we live still? Are we still live?
Okay, we're good. All right.
We're good? All right, cool. All right. So when you think of Orange County, you think of a lot of different things that are going on, not only with the racetrack, but the people around it, right? You see anybody that could potentially, cause problems in terms of, your success, in terms of Cody's success, and who's really somebody that's, up and coming?
That's a tough question. There's a lot of kids that are coming out. I mean, we saw what Tanner Von Dorn. He's 12 years old. What he could do Eastern States.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
I mean, the kid is beyond his years. I mean, he's been racing, I think, 7 or 8 years already, and he's only 12. So what does the future hold for him?
Yeah, so like having sat upstairs, which I've hardly ever watched a race from the grandstand since I was 10 years old right here. I watch different drivers on the track, and I watch, and a lot of what I see, what I really look for are decision makers, quick decision makers. I'm going to go this way when I should go that way, or
Sure.
And
Got the eye for the game.
For his age,
Yep.
he makes some really nice decisions where he holds up when he needs to hold up, and he goes when he needs to go, and that's how you stay out of trouble.
Sure.
And win championships, right?
Yeah, sure. I do remember, just because it's here, I do remember I was helping my buddy Brad out in the 51 before Tanner got in it, and Tanner was parked right next to him because Brad's car owner is obviously good friends with Tanner. Tanner pops out of the car and immediately starts describing things that the race car is doing, how it's feeling, how it's acting, how it's behaving, where it is on the racetrack, what the racetrack is doing and where he thinks the racetrack's going in terms of, is it going to dry up? Is it going to, whatever they're going to do. And the way that he was describing and articulating what he thinks they need to change on the car to go better.
Yeah, it
was
amazed,
amazing.
It amazed me because that's a car that we house at our shop, the 51, the Pat Giuliano car. It amazed me the language and the lingo that he had when he got out of the car. It made it incredibly easy to tune with him. That car had steel Bilsteins on it. You know what I mean? There was nothing on it.
Nothing trick on
there's
that
no
car.
frills to it. This kid got in it and he says, "Boy, I just got to feel this thing more in the right front." We did a little more tie down. We did a little more compression. Did a little more. I got to go a little bit more. We had the one practice night that he got in the car. He got done. He says, "Man, I think I'm going to be good. I think I got a winning car." That's all he said.
Yeah.
We went in Eastern States, and you know what? He was pretty good. But then when he was getting the lead from Alan Fink, it was like that guy probably went to bed just having a nightmare about that 51 trying to get around him on the restarts. Because the outside really wasn't the place you wanted to be going into
Wasn't
one.
the preferred line.
And this kid was just about sticking it. I said, one of these laps he's coming out in 8th or 9th because he's not going to stick it.
Right.
Next thing you know, he comes off 2, he's got the lead.
He stuck it.
And
I said to
there was
myself,
about a dozen restarts in a
yes.
row there.
I said, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that was
I was just blown away. Tanner has really amazed me. So he's one of the young kids I definitely.
we're gonna have him up here. I don't know if he'll be next show. It'll be very soon though. He's down in Florida.
and he has got some personality.
Doesn't
Other than his size, he's about a 90-pound kid.
He's
and
got
he's about
bigger,
4 foot 8.
bigger personality than he's got.
He's got
size.
some personality, and that video that you
good,
guys
though.
took
Oh,
of
good,
him
yeah.
bouncing on the roof,
Yeah, that's awesome.
and
right?
sitting down, I couldn't stop watching it. It's like one of those videos that just blew me
If we
away.
did that, we'd have a broken back. They'd be
Oh,
thinking
forget about it. I go right through it to start with, probably pierce my liver. So he's the one that really sticks out in my head. I mean, but some of these guys are just too young. Like Anthony Prego's too young. He's going to be around forever. I mean, he's already conquered everything he can, but he's going to be the guy that you're going to have to beat. I mean, he's in good stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, Matt Shepard's going to have to pack a lunch this year if he comes down because Anthony just keeps making his stuff better and better.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and what's Anthony, 25? So you're going to have to deal with him a long
minus
time.
27.
You have to deal
I
with him a long
think
time.
the way to victory lane is going to go through him for a while.
That's what I think too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But sportsman-wise, I think you're looking at that. I'm hopeful that Cody, if he decides he wants to be that good and gets more racing under him, I'm hoping he's one of those guys to talk about like that.
Well, I think if he has the focus you say he does,
Yeah.
then that's a good sign.
He sure
Yeah.
seems to. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens.
Absolutely.
Time will tell.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep. Yep.
You want to talk about it before we split for tonight? Do you want to talk about your sponsors a little bit and who they might be for 2021? And also, you know what? One more question before you talk about the sponsors.
All right.
What do you think about the schedule? I mean, what do you think about this, the way we've laid the schedule out this year?
Well-
How does that play out for you and your customers?
For me, for customers, I mean, I think it's a nice schedule. I mean, coming off the season that we had, it's a tough thing. I like the 358 racing in Orange County. I think it's really good racing. I think it lends itself, like when you look at like Grandview, some of the best racing, small block stuff. I like that the big block racing's spread out a little bit. It makes it a little bit more premier. I like that they're on Thursday nights, some of them, because it brings some of the outer towners in from out there and have some bigger shows. So I like the schedule that's out there. I like that the sportsmen's are running the majority of the time because, your sportsman class is the most inexpensive class to run. It's the guys probably that are the hungriest and want to race more than, like, I don't mind a break now and then. I never have. So having a little bit of a break here and there to recover, go race with Cody and all that, those nights, I like the schedule. I think it's encouraging. I think everybody that's got a big block down here has a small block. Maybe with the exception of a few,
Right.
but it'd be attainable.
Most guys do.
Yeah, I mean, if people wanted to have them, they probably would have them.
Right.
And I think last year with the small box getting to run such a limited schedule, it's nice to open them up and have a few more races in Orange County.
Well,
So it's nice.
like I explained earlier, that it was a decision where we were getting 40 plus small blocks for
Sure.
those couple races. I mean, so it was either if we do big blocks every race, every Saturday night, then we tell the small block guys, oh, sorry,
Exactly
man,
right.
you
No,
guys
I-
are out this year.
No,
You couldn't do it, right?
No,
so
I
we've come
agree
up with
with
a good balance, I think.
Yeah.
That should work pretty good for everybody, and the money's going to be decent. So
I think that no matter what you do things in life, you should always be able to change and feel it out, figure it out, listen to people, see what's going to be better and better, and just try it out. I mean, this year, this may be the best year going with the schedule. Who knows?
It's
And
a little out of the box.
if not, you're open and you adjust it.
Right.
You know, it's not an impossible thing.
Right.
You know, end of the year, you think you want to have another big block race somewhere because we had such a big thing. You have a big block race.
Right.
There's nothing that has to be cut in stone. I mean, look how many races you probably just up and went to because you saw that they were having a race somewhere. I mean, it's not.
Sure.
To me, it's not the end of the world no matter what you do.
Right.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
So anyway, give us
Yep.
your sponsors.
Yeah,
and,
give-
we
Well,
can sign off.
My my biggest sponsor is Handsome Devil Barbecue. He just opened
I was gonna
a
say,
new place in
he
Newburgh.
opened-
We had
a new
the,
place,
we had the
didn't he?
Wing Fest or the Wing fight here last year.
Yeah.
I hooked up with him.
Anybody who wants to go have barbecue, all you gotta do is message me.
Okay.
We're going to have barbecue.
And where's that?
I can
Yeah,
be talking.
when are we doing that?
It's in
Because-
Newburgh. Ed Randolph's his name. He comes racing with me quite
Yeah,
a bit. He's a
that was
great
great.
guy and loves racing. He's my biggest sponsor. You know, Iceless with Howie Finch. He helps my son tremendously. Helps me out also by helping him. So that's awesome. You know what I mean? And Mr. K has been with me forever. Beaverkill Trout Hatchery, who's actually the Shaver family that I used to drive for. They're still with us. So yeah, they help us. They help us quite a bit. We've got Mr. Race Oil. You know, he's up and coming on kind of the oil scene. He's on Stuart Friesen's cars and that. He's been helping us, been helping Tommy Meyer. He's got some really good stuff to offer, and he helps us quite a bit. And you know, that's the majority who helps us. But we've got within that, we've got some really super support.
Super.
So it's
That
cool.
sounds
I'm
great.
looking forward to this year.
Sounds great.
So stop by your trailer for a couple ribs or a couple.
There's a
wings
good
is
chance some
what-
nights we'll
what
have
you're
some
saying.
food.
All right.
Yeah. No,
All right.
he
So
definitely
this
knows
is
how
what
to
I'm
do it.
after. I'm after that kind of.
telling
Other
you,
people are after speed seekers.
All you guys
I'm
got to
after-
do is message me. We go eat barbecue. It's that simple.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Jerry Higbie's got the hookup on the
Yep.
good barbecue.
We're dialed
All right.
in. Telling
Sweet.
you.
Cool, man.
Sweet.
Yep.
Again, just while we're out, I just want to. What? Yeah, that's what I'm after. Just wanted to thank the Chamber of Commerce again, Orange County Chamber of Commerce, for again helping us out not only for tonight but going forward with the season. We're super happy to be on board with them, and also I want to openly advertise that we are seeking sponsorship opportunities. So if you are interested in the 2021 racing season, there are spots available, and you can contact Peter Reynolds or the racetrack office if you are interested. You got anything before we leave?
Not in particular. I just want to thank Jerry for coming
Yeah.
out here. We're not allowed to shake, but we can. do that.
Awesome to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Appreciate
coming. I
that.
hope
Feedback
everybody
to
enjoyed it. Yeah, it was cool.
Sweet. All right.
Good show, guys.
There you go. This is Van Dorn.
He's trying to call you.
Practicing.